At a family dinner, she made a bold declaration. "My ex will always be part of my life. If that's something you can't accept, then don't marry me." The entire room fell silent, all eyes turning to me. I simply replied, "Okay." Within a week, the wedding invitations were canceled, and she finally understood that our engagement was over too. Everything came to a head during a Sunday dinner, one of those tense pre-wedding gatherings where two families with nothing in common are forced to feign unity, pretending they're about to become one big happy clan for life. On one side of the table sat my parents, a quiet, traditional couple who'd been married for 40 years, grounded in dignity and old-fashioned values. On the other side were Clara's parents, retired therapists, fluent in pop psychology, who treated boundaries like optional suggestions rather than necessary lines. And right in the middle of it all was Leo. Leo wasn't just Clara's ex-boyfriend. According to Clara and her family, he was practically a spiritual sibling, an indispensable fixture in her personal ecosystem. He showed up to every holiday, every birthday, every family meal. He even had a key to her parents' house. He was the ever-present, smug phantom haunting what was supposed to be our time's relationship. From the very beginning, I'd made my stance clear. I'm not a jealous man by nature, but I firmly believe in boundaries. I believe that past relationships belong in the past, not seated at your dinner table, cracking inside jokes with your future wife. Every time I voiced my discomfort, I was met with the same patronizing lecture from Clara and her parents about my possessive masculine tendencies and my supposed inability to embrace a more fluid, modern definition of family. They dismissed my traditional values as a quaint but ultimately backward flaw, something to be tolerated, not respected. I went along with it not because I was weak or desperate, but because I was playing the long game. I needed to see just how far she would push this. I needed to know whether the foundation of our relationship was built on solid bedrock or shifting sand. The breaking point arrived over dessert when the wedding seating chart came up. My mother, always graceful, always direct, asked gently, "Clara, dear, I see you've placed Leo at the main family table next to your aunt. Do you think that's the most appropriate spot for him? Maybe one of the friends' tables would be better?" The temperature in the room plummeted instantly. Clara's mother slammed her fork down. Clara's face flushed crimson with anger. Before she could erupt, I stepped in calmly. "My mother's just thinking about optics, Clara. Having your ex-boyfriend at the family table might send the wrong message to our guests." Clara whirled on me, eyes blazing. "The wrong times message? The only confusing message here is that you and your parents are stuck in the 1950 seconds. Leo is my best friend. He's family. He was in my life long before you showed up, and he'll be in it long after." She paused, then added with chilling finality, "He will always be part of my life." Her father jumped in, his tone dripping with condescension. "Ben, we've talked about this. Your rigid definitions of relationships breed insecurity. Clara and Leo share a beautiful, evolved connection. You should be celebrating that, not trying to control it." It was a perfectly coordinated 2-on-1 ambush, with her mother nodding along in solemn agreement. They'd clearly rehearsed this psychological maneuver for years. But this time was different. This time, my parents were there watching as this woman and her family casually, arrogantly disrespected me and the marriage we were supposedly building. Emboldened by their support, Clara decided to press her advantage. She stood up, hands on her hips, and delivered the line that would shatter everything. "Let me make this perfectly clear for everyone. My ex will always be part of my life. He will be at our wedding. He will be at our children's baptisms. He will be at every holiday. That is non-negotiable. If you don't like that, then don't marry me." Her ultimatum hung in the air like a declaration of war. The whole room held its breath, waiting for my reaction. They expected me to argue, to beg, to fold as I had so many times before just to keep the peace. Clara wore a smug, triumphant expression. She thought she had me cornered. I said nothing for a full minute. I looked at her standing there in her defiant arrogance. I looked at her enabling parents, nodding in approval. I looked at my own parents, their faces a mixture of shock and quiet dignity, and then I looked back at her. The long game was over. She had just subjected our relationship to its final stress test, and the results were clear. The structure was condemned. I gave a slow, deliberate nod. "Okay," I said. The word was so quiet, so utterly devoid of emotion that it seemed to confuse her. "Okay?" she repeated mockingly. "Okay, you'll behave? Okay, you'll stop acting like a jealous child?" "No," I said, rising from the table. I folded my napkin and placed it neatly on my plate. "Okay, I won't marry you." I turned to my parents. "Mom, Dad, we're leaving." Without another glance at Clara or her stunned, speechless family, the three of us walked out of that house and out of their lives for good. Asterisk, asterisk. Update 1. Asterisk, asterisk. The drive home with my parents was silent for the first 10 minutes. My father kept his eyes fixed on the road, hands tight on the wheel. My mother stared out the window. I think they were bracing for me to break down to show regret or heartbreak, but I felt none of that. Instead, I was flooded with a profound, almost surreal sense of peace. The weight of a 5-year charade had finally been lifted from my shoulders. Finally, my dad spoke, voice low and steady. "Are you sure about this, son?" "I've never been more certain of anything in my life," I replied. My mother turned in her seat. There were no tears, just a quiet, fierce pride in her eyes. "Good," she said. "She was never the one for you. We've just been waiting for you to see it." When I got back to my house, the one I'd bought, the one Clara had been living in for the past 2 years, my phone was exploding. Dozens of missed calls. A flood of texts from Clara, her parents, her friends, even Leo himself. The messages ranged from furious to confused to pleading. "Is greater than asterisk. Clara, what was that? You just walked out? You can't be serious. Asterisk is greater than asterisk. Ben, you've deeply hurt our daughter. You need to come back and apologize immediately. Asterisk is greater than asterisk. Dude, what the hell is your problem? You're blowing this way out of proportion. Asterisk." They all operated under the same delusion, that this was just a tantrum, a temporary outburst that could be smoothed over with a few condescending lectures and a half-hearted apology. They hadn't yet grasped the finality behind that single word, asterisk. "Okay, asterisk." I didn't reply to any of them. Instead, I made one call to Cynthia, our wedding planner, a consummate professional. "Cynthia, it's Ben. There's been a change of plans. The wedding is off permanently." A stunned silence followed. "What?" "Ben, the invitations are scheduled to go out tomorrow morning. I need you to stop that immediately," I said. "Don't send a single one. And begin canceling all vendor contracts. My fiancée and her family will handle all financial matters moving forward. They were paying for everything, so they'll manage the refunds and cancellation fees." This was a crucial part of my strategy. Clara's father had made sure everyone knew he was footing the bill for the entire 6-figure affair. Now, the financial fallout of unraveling it all was his problem, not mine. The next morning, the real shockwave hit. Cynthia, efficient and unflinching, started making calls. First, to Clara's parents. I would have paid $1,000 to overhear that conversation. Then to the caterer, the florist, the band. The venue, each call another nail in the coffin of their grand social spectacle. Another non-refundable deposit lost. Clara's father called me, voice strangled with rage. "What have you done? Do you have any idea how much money we're losing? You can't just do this." "I didn't times anything," I replied calmly. "I simply accepted your daughter's terms. She gave me an ultimatum. Accept her ex as a permanent fixture in our marriage, or don't marry her. I chose the latter. I respected her boundary. The consequences of that choice are now yours to manage. He sputtered about lawsuits, breach of promise, legal action, breach of promise. I laughed a cold, hollow sound. You were there, Richard. A dozen people heard her issue that ultimatum at your dinner table. She made the continuation of our marriage conditional. I declined the conditions. There's no lawsuit. There's just the bill for a party you're no longer hosting. I hung up. Later that afternoon, Clara showed up at my house using her key to let herself in. She found me in the living room, surrounded by empty boxes, packing her belongings. "What are you doing?" she shrieked, face twisted in disbelief. "I'm helping you move," I said, without looking up. "You'll need to find a new place to live. You can't kick me out. I live here." "No, Clara," I said, finally standing to face her. "You've been staying times here. This is my house. My name is on the deed, and your invitation has been revoked. I'll be changing the locks tomorrow. I suggest you have your parents come pick up your things." Her confident facade finally cracked. She broke down crying, begging, pleading, insisting she didn't mean it, that she loved me. I stood unmoved. The time for that, Clara, was when my mother sat at your table and was treated with disrespect. The time for that was times before times you made your ex-boyfriend a condition of our marriage. You made your choice, now I'm making mine. Asterisk, asterisk, update 2. Asterisk, asterisk. The next 30 days became a slow, brutal education for Clara in the reality of consequences. She and her family had spent their lives in a soft, cushioned world where money bought second chances and poor decisions carried no real cost. That world was now gone. The first lesson was financial. After a week of bluster and threats, her father realized I wouldn't contribute a single cent to the wedding's financial wreckage. The final tally for lost deposits and cancellation fees reportedly neared $100,000, a staggering blow, even for them. The second lesson was social. They tried to spin the narrative that I'd had an emotional breakdown, that I'd called off the wedding for no reason. But the story was too juicy, too public. Dozens had witnessed Clara's ultimatum. Word spread like wildfire through their social circle. She wasn't the victim. She was the arrogant fiancé who'd overplayed her hand and lost everything. Forced to move out of my house, Clara moved back in with her parents. I heard the atmosphere there turned toxic. Facing financial ruin and public humiliation, her parents resented her. Constant fights replaced their carefully curated image of an evolved family. The veneer had peeled away, revealing the bitter dysfunction underneath. And Leo? The essential ex? He proved utterly useless in a real crisis. He'd been a fun accessory for a woman with a stable, successful fiancé, but he had zero interest in supporting a broke, unemployed, emotionally volatile single woman. Slowly, quietly, he began to disappear. His calls and texts stopped. He was busy. He had other plans. In the end, he was just another fair-weather friend. While her world crumbled, I quietly rebuilt mine. I took a 2-week trip to Europe, something I'd always wanted to do but had postponed because Clara had no interest. I returned refreshed and clear-headed. I threw myself into work and landed the biggest project of my career. I reconnected with old friends, people who drifted away because they didn't like the person I'd become while with Clara. I wasn't ready. I was savoring the peace, the quiet, the freedom of a life that was entirely my own, a life free from navigating someone else's emotional minefields. The final, most satisfying lesson for Clara came about 6 months after our breakup. A major architectural journal published a feature on a historic theater I'd spent 2 years restoring. It was the pinnacle of my career, a huge honor. The article included photos from the gala reopening, attended by the mayor and the city's most influential figures. There was a picture of me on stage, accepting an award, beaming with pride, Asterisk, asterisk. Final update. Asterisk, asterisk. It's been a little over a year since that fateful Sunday dinner. My life has transformed in ways I never imagined. My firm has grown significantly, and the success of the theater project has opened doors I didn't even know existed. I sold my old house and bought a stunning downtown loft, all clean lines, exposed brick, and industrial steel. A space that reflects time's me asterisk, and only me. 6 months ago, I started dating again. Her name is Sarah. She's a doctor kind, brilliant, and strong-willed. Her family is a loud, loving Italian clan who welcomed me with open arms and far too much pasta. Her past is her past. My past is mine. Together we're building a future rooted in mutual respect, honesty, and clear boundaries. I hadn't seen or spoken to Clara in over a year. I'd blocked her and her entire family on every platform. But news still trickled in through mutual acquaintances. Her parents had been forced to sell their large home and downsize to a condo. The wedding disaster, combined with some of her father's other failed financial schemes, had left them financially crippled. Clara was still living with them. She'd tried launching a career as a life coach, but without my money to fund the website and marketing, it fizzled before it began. She was now working part-time at a high-end boutique, a job she reportedly despised, and Leo completely out of the picture. He'd gotten engaged to someone else, and he and his new fiancée had made it abundantly clear that Clara was times not times welcome in their modern, fluid family. The final unexpected encounter happened last month. I was at a charity auction with Sarah, bidding on a piece of art, laughing and enjoying the evening. Across the crowded room, I saw her. She was volunteering wearing a black apron, serving champagne and clearing plates. She saw me with Sarah beautiful, accomplished, laughing at my side. Saw me looking happy, relaxed, and utterly indifferent to her existence. For just a fraction of a second, her mask of bored resentment slipped. Her face crumpled. I saw pure, unfiltered regret flash across her features. Then she turned and vanished into the kitchen before I could even process the moment. And just like that, the ghost was gone for good.